But we know that a lot of times veterans do not want to take that first step just due to many reasons. But one main reason is kind of vulnerability.
I'm like, in my opinion, we got to stop calling these veterans. You got veterans that have flown Apache helicopters, A-10 Warhogs, worked on nuclear propulsion systems, stuff of that nature. Veterans are not, they're smart.
It was a very seldom that we received contact from a POA that actually supported the veteran to go through the full entirety course of the process. And that was the part that, as a Raider, took it upon ourselves to be able to make sure that we contacted the POA to make sure that they're supporting them correctly, because there was opportunities of service connection that just did not connect based upon a missing statement, missing piece of medical evidence, or what have you. Understanding that, it was very disheartening to see the spouse of a veteran who is struggling with 2 children have to go through that process again, because you need to go back up to the board again because it was already denied and tumbled down after years of struggle. But the POA recommended that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Dwayne. I got a video for that Kimball, United States Army veteran, retired VA rating specialist, and your VA claim nugget man. I'm joined today with our special guest,
Mr. Kenneth Davis here, CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Veterans for Veterans.
So, Keith, if any vets want to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you and your team?
Well, they always can contact us. You can go to vetsforvetsconsulting.com. We also can reach out at 619-786-0465 to be able to get any type of support here. We're here basically ongoing. So if you reach out, we'll definitely be able to go ahead and basically fulfill any needs. But you also can email us at info@vetsforvetsconsulting.com as well.
All right. Good stuff. So today's topic: should vets only use a VSO or accredited claims agent or accredited attorney? Now, both you and I have rated and we've seen things behind the scenes, especially with the VA Form 21-22, VA Form 21-22 Alpha, fee agreements, which a lot of veterans, they don't understand. They just start signing. So I'll pose a question to you first, and then I'll follow up. We'll go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. Do you think veterans should use someone that's accredited, or should they do it themselves, adjudicate their own claim?
Well, I think that's a great question, first and foremost. But what I would say is this: I believe it's circumstantial, right? We all are in need of a little assistance in anything that we're doing. So it just depends on the veteran circumstance, right? If you're a veteran who's been struggling for years to be able to get and continues to being able to get denied, and you want to be able to get the support that you deserve, then I think kind of reaching out for that support was definitely something that you need to be able to take the first steps to do. However, but we know that a lot of times veterans do not want to take that first step just due to many reasons, but one main reason is kind of vulnerability, because being able to continue your case file after being denied on several different occasions is a very vulnerable space to be in. But I would say it's very circumstantial. It really, really depends, and I don't want to start off the show with kind of being aloof there, but I think it's very circumstantial.
And I agree, it's going to depend on the veteran situation. But one thing we were talking about earlier, I'm like, in my opinion, we got to stop calling these veterans. You got veterans that have flown Apache helicopters, A-10 Warhogs, worked on nuclear propulsion systems, stuff of that nature. Veterans are not, they're smart, right? They're smart. So when I rated, I saw, a lot of veterans take the bull by the horns and go ahead and do it themselves. Now, I do believe that, if you're dealing with an elderly veteran, they're not really computer savvy, then they're going to need that hand holding of a VSO claims agent or maybe even an attorney to, submit that paperwork for them. So, I get it. But for the most part, this day and age, you're dealing with AI, you're dealing with other software programs that are out there that are built to educate the veteran to become empowered to do this yourself. But at the end of the day, again, like you stated, it's going to depend on the veteran circumstance. But I've seen veterans uh, do it do it themselves, which leads me into the next question. When you rate it, and when I rated, we were using first start rating, we used RBA 2000. Then maybe I'm showing my age there a little bit. And then the transition over to VVMS about a year and a half later. When you rate it, was it like a 50-50 when you were generating a rating and a veteran? And we say VSOs, but when I rate it, we always call them POAs. Who's the
Mm,
veteran's POA? Because that's actually,
mm.
I know when you look at older, I don't know if they changed it, rating code sheets in the top right, or I think it was top left hand
There's a
corner.
left, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it had the POA, it had the POA. So that's like the VSO, whomever. So when you rated, did you see, was the scales tipped more so where the veterans did have a rep or they didn't?
Well, I'll tell you this. When I was reading, it was there was more leaning towards a POA was involved. A POA was there, but then when we say there and providing actual support, there was never any. It was a very seldom that we received contact from a POA that actually supported the veteran to go through the full entirety course of the process. And that was the part that, as a raider, we took it upon ourselves to be able to make sure that we contacted the POA to make sure that they're supporting them correctly, because there was opportunities of service connection that just did not connect based upon a missing statement, missing piece of medical evidence, or what have you, that could have really put the veteran over the hill. So when we talk about POAs, yeah, there were more POAs that were there on a consistent basis, but reporting and getting information back from the veteran, it was a very seldom support and advocacy that was truly positioned to them to receive.
And what I used to hate, trying to get a hold of the POA and they never email you back, didn't pick up the phone, leave a message, wouldn't call you back. And you're trying to do exactly what you just stated and get that claim to the next stage. 2 or 3 days later, you got your coach, somebody, hey, what's going on? And like, hey, I'm trying to get some clarification. Then you end up deferring it, and that vet goes back to the end of the line. Cause I'm like, hey, I got to get my points. Okay. You know, I got to get my point. And it was time I started calling the vet. And then one vet said, well, call my lawyer. Okay. All right. Not a problem. I'm not calling that lawyer back because they haven't got back with me. I'm going to defer it. And now your claim is going to the end of the line. It was some simple clarification like, had the lawyer submit a claim for a knee condition. Is it
Mhm.
right knee or left knee? Got two, you know. So the veteran could have easily answered that, but he was like, "Oh, call my lawyer." All right, So a little bit crazy there. And I've heard other veterans say that, "Hey, been working with this VSO organization or this claims agent or attorney. They're not picking. They're not picking up the phone." But
Mhm.
moving right along, what is, if you can remember, because I'm just when we were thinking about that, what is the craziest, or I don't want to say the craziest, but what is, if you can remember, I'll go first, but it'll give you time to think about it. But what is the craziest claim that you ever received from a POA, VSO, claims agent, or an attorney? And I'll go first to give you a little bit
Woo.
of time to think about it.
No
So,
thoughts necessary.
yeah, so I get a claim. I won't say who the organization was, but probably, if not the largest, in the top three. The POA submits a claim, VSO submits a claim for increase for tinnitus. And I'm like, oh, well, let me go back to the rating decision because I want to make sure the rater put in there that this is the maximum evaluation. So that's there. And I'm like, let me go down to the POA's office to see, just to confirm. The POA says, well, yeah. I'm like, but that's the highest. Is it paragraph 30? Did it have surgery or something? Is it? Nope.
Mhm.
I was like, well, you the rater, figure it out. Not a problem. Confirm and continue at 10%. Easy. So I'm trying to give, benefit of the doubt. Maybe I'm missing something,
Yeah.
let me go and, see what's what. And this back when they had paper claims. So I was up on the secure floor, walk down. I'm sitting, they got me in the waiting room with other vets. And I'm
Oh
like,
no, you had to beep in. They set you in the waiting room.
yeah. I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing? Oh, okay. Well, never coming back. And I never went back to that organization's office in the regional office. And the majority of the time when I saw those representatives in the cafeteria,
Wow.
and I was like, nope. And they would come to my desk,
Mm.
I'm busy.
Wow.
Shoot, put it in an email. But now I propose a question to you.
I'm just kind of just registering, right? Just kind of really reflecting on that because it's so common, right? This is so common, and again, to be able to take those steps there, those initial steps to be able to go over and beyond for the veteran to make sure that they get that 10%, right? I want to be able to lay the foundation so people understand what it takes for you to complete that action. You have to leave your production space because you're actually graded on how many claims that you're completing throughout the day to be able to walk through this and then sit and wait for a quick question through a support and advocacy organization that you guys are supposed to be connected together to be able to support the veteran. And to not be able to get the answers that's needed, I think that's where we are, right? And I want to make sure that they understand the full set of the foundation. And now you get back to the desk with no clarification, no information, no nothing, but you're still on production and you still have to push these claims. So now you've put stress on not only the rater, but another veteran.
Yeah.
So just kind of setting the stage for that. It's just very interesting. But to answer your question, the aspect of a claim that I see it received, it was a DIC, right? DIC, very interesting. And we understand dependent indemnity compensation, right? That is the benefit of a spouse being able to receive benefits or beneficiaries such as, again, dependent spouse or child or even parent at times, right? That could be able to receive benefits after the veteran has passed away if you're at 100%. Well, with that, I was able to identify that there was the lack of care in this file. And think about the sensitivity that needs to be had with this file because we're dealing with a veteran's death and a spouse of need of the financial support and also education support. So with that being said, that one of the POAs, like I said, we're going to kind of remain anonymous, but a POA that was, again, a major POA, right, when we were there, that POA, unfortunately, after being denied, after years and years of fighting, it went up to the board. After it being actually denied, going to the board, it was spoken that the veteran should be able to submit a supplemental claim in order to get it back up to the board so they could be able to review the decision. This was literally 4 months after the decision has already been rendered, okay? So we're not talking about the 30-day time frame when we're talking about have to submit the form and continue to go up and, the old process, the legacy process, right? Yeah. So understanding that, it was very disheartening to see the spouse of a veteran who is struggling with 2 children have to go through that process again. Because you need to go back up to the board again because it was already denied and tumbled down after years of struggle. But the POA recommended that. You recommended that, not knowing that you have to go another 3 years to hopefully get a. And again, we really hope that this person gets a grant that they deserve, but it's a lot more complicated than that when we talk about the board not actually discussing the full decision of why denial was happening, which was not communicated from the POA, which I think that's why they're there, right? To explain decisions, to understand the ramifications on if you go this route, or this route. Well, we understand that most POAs are underpaid and understaffed. So you're treated as a appointment that's recycled throughout the doors. And unfortunately, this was recycled and not taken with care. And we understand how this could really impact not only the spouse, but the children as well.
Exactly. I agree. And moving right along, let's jump into fee agreements. And fee agreements fall under claims agents that are accredited and lawyers. And I did a video, I want to say about a month or two, maybe a little bit longer, where I talked about fee agreements because veterans were saying, let me know, hey, Dwayne, I'm working with this claims agent or I'm working with this law firm and I can't get them on the phone. And they just start doing their claims themselves and they win on a high level review or BVA and they win. And they look at that notification letter, 20% go to the lawyer, but they didn't do anything. You never revoked them. Did you sign a fee agreement? Did that claims agent or attorney waive any future fees? Did they revoke themselves and waive it? What are you talking about? There it is. So fee agreements. And one thing that I used to see when I rated, veteran gets a proposal to sever, meaning taking away PTSD or whatever, or reduce. And they would have a claims agent or an attorney, but sometimes VSO. But more so, it was the claims agents and attorneys that said, oh, just let them, we'll appeal it. And I'm like, why? Request an RVSR hearing, especially you can introduce new evidence, but you can't do it on a high level review, right? So they don't get paid if that veteran wins their RVSR hearing. Or I've seen this. The veteran gets denied, and it could be something as simple as, hey, the rater didn't take in consideration, or they requested a CMP exam when they had sufficient evidence to go ahead and rate the case without a CMP exam. And they would, you got 365 days to submit that high level review. So I've also seen some, and what we're talking about today, people understand it's not all VSOs, claims agents, and attorneys, just, a few.
Oh, no, please.
Yeah.
Yes. Some are
There's definitely some
phenomenal.
good ones. Yeah, good ones out there. And I would see they will wait to that 12th month and submit that appeal or high level review. And when they get 20%, but they could have done the same thing in less than 30 days. So what does that mean? They get 20% of that back pay, other 12 months, and it could have went even further if they continued to pursue that claim, or if they had a intent to file date, ITF date, opposed to submitting it 2 or 3 weeks after that rating decision comes in. When you rated, did you see something similar or not?
So I would say I've seen things very similar, right? All the way to the next level, right? Being able to submit the higher level review, knowing denial was on the way, right? Based upon, just common knowledge of a VA lawyer, right? So a VA attorney. Well, even taking it to the next level of going to the appeals management center, right? Or office, right? That right there, those veterans have been fighting for years 3, 4, 5, 6 years, going to a board appeal all the way to Washington, D.C., even providing a formal conference to be able to speak towards that claim. But then we know that that claim could have been adjudicated at the introduction on a regular increase or 526EZ to be able to kind of mitigate this. But we took it all the way to the board, and that person has waited 7 years for a decision. And now that you go from 10% to 100%, and now that 7-year back pay of that 20% is it, or up to 33% or something of that nature for an attorney fee agreement, now you get that percentage based upon the elongated back pay. And that's why I say it's circumstantial on who you select to be able to work your file, because there has to be a certain level of advocacy towards the mission of supporting the veterans. So that's a big thing.
Yep. And that's why, and when I talk about in that video, when I was talking about fee agreements, I was telling a veteran, before you sign it, understand what it is. Understand what you're signing. Ask questions to that claims agent or lawyer and be like, wait a minute, if I feel that I'm not getting adequate representation, will you forego any future fees if I want to fight this myself? Because not only when you revoke that claims agent or attorney or VSO, they have to also say they're removing themselves from representation as well, and they forego any future fees. If they don't do that, yeah, you could do all the work, they still get paid and haven't done anything. So it's very important that veterans understand when you talk about that 2122, 2122 alpha fee agreements, you need to understand exactly what it is you're signing, because I've seen several get up to 10K and didn't lift a finger. The vet did all of the work. And that's crazy, but it's not being talked about on YouTube, surprisingly. And I wonder why, right? I'm like, why? Why aren't they talking about this piece, right? Does somebody don't want you to know the ins and outs of a fee agreement? And also, I've seen where they, submitted to the VA, say, hey, we forego that and charge the veteran 33 and a third outside of the VA to do the same work that they're doing, that they would get to 20%. So if you're doing the same work, why forego the 20% and make the vet pay 33 and a third? You're doing the same work. It makes no sense. But again, nobody's out there on YouTube talking about it. I just did one video about fee agreements, right? But I haven't seen any other videos out there really breaking it down.
Yeah, and I think it's a specific reason, right? I think right now it is kind of the hot topic, right? Consultants. What does a consultant do? How are they going to represent? Well, those are the questions that you need to ask your lawyer. Okay, those are the questions that you need to make sure that the same scrutiny that you will apply to anyone else that you need to be able to apply to them, because they are representing you throughout your case file, throughout the entirety transition of your case file. There's many strategies that are put in place that you guys may not be aware of that is unfortunately taking advantage of you. Because it's known behind the scenes, but it's not known up front. Now, can we talk about this forwardly? I think now is the time.
Yep, most definitely. So I've had several veterans call me and ask me that question, like, hey, I had a representative, claims agent or attorney, and I won. I did all the work myself. They didn't do anything, but they still got paid. Is there anything I could do? You could try to appeal it, but
Good luck.
you're not gonna win that because they still on the books. They can come back and say, then I think at that point, then that claims agent or attorney should do the right thing. They know they didn't do any work. They know. Give that veteran that money. You didn't do any work. Give that veteran that money. So I think this is something that needs to be talked about more, especially on social media. So veterans have an understanding. And at the end of the day, if they're okay with it, at least they know, okay, what to expect, or how these fee agreements work, what to expect. And like I said, in the video I did, I'm like, hey, ask questions. All right. So
Mhm.
we're going to go ahead and wrap up, but I'll give you the last word. Any words of encouragement, advice to veterans as it pertains to picking a VSO, a claims agent, or even a lawyer?
Yeah. So, listen, veterans, my whole sole purpose of our organization is to be able to support, right, advocacy. And obviously, Mr. Kimball is as well. When you are selecting the person that you want to represent you, there are simple steps that you should take. You need to trust who you're selecting. You need to be informed of your process. And you need to be side by side with them to be able to communicate what's going on. Your testimony matters. As much as people do not think it does, your testimony matters to the VA. It holds much probative weight when you have been denied and you're actually sending it up. Do not let anyone tell you that what you went through in the military that may not have been documented did not happen. Also, do your research on who you are allowing to represent you. You may be a bit surprised of the outcomes of what you find out. I am not here to position anyone to say in a negative light, but before we get off here, I want to let you guys know, make sure you are entrusting someone with your claim who you essentially trust with your family, because it matters so much.
And before we leave, I just thought of another story that I'd like to share because you said something. You said be side by side. Just because you have a lawyer or a claims agent, you still need to be in contact and be in it, going, side by side in that process, giving input, understanding what they're doing and why they're doing it. Had a buddy of mine, grew up with him. We grew up in the same town, went to the same high school. He knew my grandparents, I knew his parents. And we were in the National Guard together.
Mm.
And one year we went down to Panama in the jungles, building a base camp. And a soldier died. The backhoe went off a cliff, and they say it split him in half.
Mm.
So we were there. So he claims PTSD, gets service connected for it, goes in for increase. Then the VA says they call it CUE, clear and unmistakable error, proposed to sever. And so I was rating at the time. And I said, "You got the rating decision?" I say, look in the notification letter. And of course, he didn't know the difference between the notification letter and the rating decision. So we had to go have that conversation. So I'm like,
Mm.
"Well, you have a representative, VSO, what they say?" "Oh, they're talking about let them go ahead and sever it, then they appeal." I said, "Well, you can request an RVSR hearing and you can bring witnesses. I'll be a witness." So he calls the VSO and the VSO says, "No, we don't need him. We don't even need to do an RVSR hearing." And I don't hear from my friend until he gets the final decision. They severed it. He calls back and say, "Well, what is the next step?" "Oh, you're out of state. So even though you're with our organization, you're in a different state. So you got to contact somebody in your state." Left him hanging high and dry.
Mm.
And I said, "What about the RVSR here? Why didn't, oh, well, they said, Vets, this is your claim. You have a say so in what they do and what they don't do." And they took it. And he still, this was, whew, I retired in October 2018. So this was before maybe 2016. He's still fighting.
Wow.
And I'm like, that RVSR hearing it. He let them take control, and that was it. So, with that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you again, and also let everybody know how can they get a hold of you in your company, because we're going to be doing these videos monthly. Okay, so you guys will be seeing, but how can they get a hold of you and your team again, sir?
Yes, you guys can definitely reach out, and you can guys give us a call at 619-786-0465. We're always manning the phones to make sure that we are here to support you guys, to make sure to answer any questions, be able to provide any type of support that we can follow through with. Also, you can email us at info@vetsforvetsconsulting.com, and also you can be able to tune in to our show here at Prepare to Compete on YouTube, and you can be able to get more information from there as well. So we have, again, so many different channels that we're going to be able to reach out to you guys and be able to support. This is just one of many. Again, I thank you so much, Mr. Kimball, to be able to enjoy this space with you.
Hey, not a problem. With that being said, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and as always, share this video with your fellow veterans. Thank you.